Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 36 of the MC Lars podcast. It is May 6, 2019. We are on a day off. I'm on the Mount Nerdcore tour with Megaran, MC Frontalot, and Schaefer, the Dark Lord. The tour's been great. We started out in Chicago. We drove to Fargo, and we've been coming east, and it's been great turnouts. People are loving the new songs. We're debuting a lot of songs from the Dewey Decibel System, doing all sorts of collabs, and it's just cool to be part of this small, weird niche of music that keeps surviving. Anyone who supports me on Patreon who comes to the show gets a free t-shirt. I've got 2 new songs coming out this month. I got a song about Jack the Ripper and a song called How to Train Your Yoshi. Patreon.com/MCLars for that flavor. And you get access to the whole back catalog and the new stuff. It's a great deal. It's very easy to sign up. I want to thank the new supporters who have recently signed up, Jimothy, Joseph, and Graham. And I want to thank some of the old supporters, Jonathan, Anthony, and Justin. Thank you all. You keep the podcast going, keep the songs going, you keep the MC Lars flavor going. And I don't have ads on this podcast. I never will. But if you like it, please support the Patreon if you want. Let me tell you about the shows we've got coming up. The tour is we got 2 more weeks left. I'm in Rochester, May 7th, May 8th, Columbus, May 9th, Pittsburgh, May 10th, Nashville, May 11th, Birmingham, May 13th, Atlanta, May 14th, Gainesville, May 15th, West Palm Beach, which is near Miami, and then May 16th, we finish up in Orlando. I'm selling the Robot Kills anniversary shirt, which was a big hit in England. I'm only printing it this tour. It's limited edition, but it's got the years, the 10-year anniversary, and it's a cool drawing I did of the cover, but like I just drew the robot with the cool background, and I'm proud of it. It's one of my favorite merch items I have done. Speaking of robots, killer robots, speaking of friendship, today we have an amazing guest, Tim Thompson. Now, Tim, I met when I was 10 years old. He is one of my best friends in the world. We were roommates. We met in 5th grade. He was in some of my first musical projects. He's on Radio Pet Fencing. He raps. He plays guitar. You'll hear, we talk more about his breadth of talents. But Tim has done a lot of videos for me over the years, like Lars Attacks, The Robot Kills, White Kids Aren't Hyphy, tons of videos, and he's working on stuff for the Dewey Decibel System. But Tim is an interesting guy. He also did videos for Real Big Fish and Weird Al Yankovic. He's a great editor and producer, and he is one of the people who inspired me to be an artist. Like, he went for it. He knew he had a dream to work in the entertainment industry. He went for it. I did too, and we always collaborated, and we never, either of us really gave up despite hardships and ups and downs. So we talk about this. We talk about our friendship on this episode, and we reminisce about a friend of ours, Jason, who was a very close friend of us growing up. And you'll hear kind of what happened to Jason and how that led us to become like more intimate creatively in our lives. So it's a really interesting episode. I'm really proud of this episode. It's one of my favorites. It's been cool interviewing my close friends because we kind of reminisce, and it pieces together the story of how I got to where I am, where my friends are, and what they're doing. So shout out to Tim Thompson. He let me interview him in his office where he works in West LA in Mar Vista. And it was a great episode. So check it out. Thank you all for listening. This is the MC Lars podcast with Timothy Thompson. Chill. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with one of my oldest friends, a dude I've known over 25 years, a director, a musician, a producer, a writer, a cinematographer, a musician, I don't know if I mentioned that, a rapper, definitely one of the most talented people I've known in my whole life, and one of my best friends in the world. He was one of my groomsmen at my wedding. You were in my second band. Ladies and gentlemen, Timothy Thompson.
How you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Just living a dream. Not really, but
we talk all the time. You are one of my friends who, you and DJ are the 2 friends I talk to like regularly still. And I think becomes this possibility when you get older to lose touch with the people you love, right? Mm-hmm. And have your world get smaller. But then there are always a few people who, you say you have friends for a season and friends for a reason, or something. I don't know if you heard that rhyme.
I haven't.
And you've been in my life since, I don't know, man. I want to hear you talk. I've been talking, but I owe MC Lars to you for sure. And my success as an artist is because my bro Tim.
I don't know if that's true. You were always like super talented and super really into creative endeavors and music and stuff like that. But I do think it was fun kind of taking like that old I don't know if it was I don't know what brand of tape recorder it was, but it was that brown. Remember that brown old tape recorder?
Yeah.
And we just like put that we put it in my brother's room because he got one of those Casio keyboards for Christmas one year, and we just went in there and like would play with all the presets and like make up songs.
And then we changed it to MNP, Major Noise
Pollution. Yeah.
And our debut album was called Say What, and I did the album art on this old program, Kid Picks.
Yeah,
I remember this guy with question marks and like weird things, and we made the album art. We recorded all the songs, and I quickly realized, we'd come up with lyrics and concepts, and one day we should digitize that tape and like make it a free download. But you could sing, man. You could hit notes, and your parents are both like, your dad is a theater teacher at the school we went to, and your mom is a musician, and they're both active in the church. And I would try to sing your songs. I'd be like, why does it not sound the same? Oh, Tim is like a vocalist. So my whole career has been about like taking my limitations and trying to do what's best with them. And I always, felt like you had so much talent, especially musically, guitar playing, singing. And our first band together was Amphoteric, which was the origin of MC Lars, because we'd play shows and then I would play bass in the band, and then I would open for the shows and rap, and only happened a handful of times, but it became part of the lore that like MC Lars started as a side project from this punk ska hardcore band that was us. And some of those songs, man, I don't know, those songs are still like, I was listening to some of the demos, and we had, I think we could have done well with that band.
Well, it was certainly fun to do it. It definitely gave us something to do and something to try out. I liked that all of our songs kind of sounded different. Like none of the songs really sounded the same. Like they were all like different genres. And I think it's probably just because like my parents were like big music fans. They're really into the Beatles, and like all the Beatles songs, like I feel like a ton of the Beatles songs sound different. They just mess with different genres. So I think that's probably why I was like I was influenced by the Beatles, and then I listened to a lot of Christian music back in the day. So a lot of DC Talk, and DC Talk is like super influenced by the Beatles. You can just hear like them, like they definitely like riff on the Beatles a lot. So because I listened to a lot of that music, I think a lot of the songs we wrote together. And because it started, you had a band called Horace.
Right, and Chris, I interviewed Chris, who was our original bass player, who's now, he does pop culture writing, and Horace. And then Amphoteric was you, me, Dan Ellis, and Nick West.
Yep, Nick West.
Who, those guys, Dan Ellis, I don't know if you knew this, he was a drummer. Now he's Avril Lavigne's guitarist.
So awesome.
Which is crazy. And Nick became like a virtuoso who's in New York, like a great session musician. And
you could tell. I mean, he like when he was in our band, he would play a fretless bass, which I thought was like, I couldn't play a fretless guitar if I tried. Like, it's amazing. He was
a genius.
Yeah.
And we'd print out the chord charts, and something I did with Horace is I would write the melodies and the chords, and the lyrics, and think of the melody, and then Sean, who was the vocalist of that band, would sing them like really well. And then something we had a talent of, like Canton, Ohio, my song about Marilyn Manson. I did a demo of that, and I'm kind of like pitchy, and I'm like all over the register. But you picked out the melody, and then when you did a version of that song, you would sing these songs, and you would like, it's cool. You would capture it was in my head in a way that no one else I've worked with in melody writing could have done. And we'd have the chord charts, and we lost half the band, right? But then we got Craig Brown, who is an incredible drummer. He's in Palm Springs. He plays with a lot of bands, and we'd rehearse at his house a lot, and we became a trio.
Yeah, it was fun, and I think we did one demo out of that. We got one demo out of that. We did like 4 songs, right?
We have 2 demos we did with him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We had 4 songs. There's the recorded songs of Green Machine, which actually, dude, that riff that riff was from a Horse song, but the chord change on the chorus is what I use for Hot Topic is Not Punk Rock.
Nice.
And so I probably should have listened to you as a co-writer. I apologize.
No, but you called and asked. You were very nice.
It was F sharp minor, D, A, B. No, F sharp minor, A, D, B, F sharp minor, D, A, B. That was your change. And that was so dope. And the song was about, well, tell us what that song was about, because you wrote the lyrics to original version of that.
Well, I grew up with like pretty like liberal parents, for being like very Christian. My parents are very, very liberal, I think. And they always trying to kind of taught me that like money isn't the answer, that like, love and friendship and like being a good person and being kind to people and not judging people on their differences, but judging them on their character is like probably the most important thing, And so, and my parents are both teachers, so we obviously didn't grow up very like well off. In fact, my parents confessed to me recently, they were talking about like, oh, what are some of your best memories from being a kid? And I was like, oh, when we had fondue night, which is like, you take the cheese and you dip food in it. And they're like, and then my parents just like busted out laughing. And I was like, why are you laughing? And they're like, well, we did that because we didn't have any money. And it was just like the leftovers in the fridge. So we just got some cheese and like heated it up. And so when we couldn't feed you and your brother, we just had fondue nights because we had nothing else to feed you because we were out of food. So it's kind of funny.
That's sweet, dude.
Yeah. So like, and so because of that, like I've never really like valued money the same way that I think maybe like people who kind of make that their life, like, so I don't know. I think Green Machine is just about how money kind of takes away your focus, and like a lot of people worship it like a god, like, or like it becomes the focus of everything, and it is tough because everything in this world costs money. So, well,
of course, round and round it goes from my head to my toes, making us the new god of green, right? And you talk about this guy who's trying to pick up a girlfriend and he's broke, so she doesn't care about him. And then you write a letter and you're praying, you're writing, you say, I wrote all night. I wrote, what was it? Would you call it odd? I was writing to God.
Yeah.
And those lyrics, man, you're such a poet. And another one was, you wrote a song about this girl you liked, Molly's Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
And the line, I hope 99 will be a wonderful year, right? Because you wrote it in 98. We played, one of our biggest shows, we played a New Year's Eve festival on New Year's Eve of the Millennium.
Yep, that was fun.
And we definitely had some, I remember the band before was like this, who played was like really like jazzy, like talented band. And it was like a lot of moms. And then we started our set with like with
Drop D tuning.
Drop D tuning. What was that first song? It was just like
I think it was good. I think it was Green Machine.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. And then I remember because I remember watching the video and I remember
Everyone's
just looking
bounced.
And I had like black slacks on, but they were like pocketless black slacks that I was wearing. And I just remember thinking, why was I wearing pocketless? Like, what's the point of pocket? I think they're supposed to be like dancing pants or something like that. They were actually like, it was weird. Like, I don't know. They were actually probably just like pants from like my dad, because he works in drama. He probably just had like dancer pants laying around. So I probably just took them and wore them.
You were killing it though. And like our other big show was, shout out to Mr. Beck. He had an assembly at our school, a required assembly with the entire school, 600 people had to come watch us play a set in the auditorium. It was like mandatory. I'm like, that's so rare in the music business. Like your first show is for 600 people, and it like with great sound. And you went to different high schools, so you came in and just schooled it. And like, that was awesome, right?
Yeah, it was funny.
And it was like there was this groundswell of support for Amphoteric, and
I remember somebody coming after me at that show. It might have been Dan Ellis, who basically was just like telling me, because I headbanged, and he's like, dude, the headbanging thing is over. I forget, somebody came up to me. I think it was after that set. Somebody came up,
during your songs?
No, like after we had finished, someone was like, the headbanging thing is over. You should stop doing that.
When were you headbanging out?
I don't know.
Just like rocking out.
Yeah.
I mean, the songs were, it was Nirvana, it was DC Talk. We loved ICP. Like, I remember we tried to do a cover of Under the Moon because it's kind of a ska song, and that didn't really translate. It was we could have.
Yeah, you did that. You did that when you played First Night with Horace, I think, because I remember Sean seeing that.
Yeah, we did some covers. We did with Horace. We did Dramarama's Anything. We did Superman's Dead by Our Lady Peace. Did we do any covers with Amphoteric?
I don't remember. I think we did. We did one song that Dan Ellis wrote. I remember. Forget what that was.
No, it was yes, no, Skittles, Rainbow Bunny, Monkey Wrench with Steak in. What is he saying? Bullets are what I'm no, something is what I'm making. It was he wanted to write a nonsense song.
Yeah, it was fun.
So and then
we did it. I think we performed that one.
Yeah, there was some bangers. And then what happened was, we're skipping all over and I want to go back to some earlier stuff. The band eventually it became like Blue Man Group. It was all entirely different members, except Craig for a minute. Craig still played.
Yeah, Craig still played. Well, yeah, because what happened was you left because you MC Lars really started taking off, and so you were just like, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to college. I'm doing a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't like a priority. So you basically just kind of like handed the reins to me, and I needed another member.
Yeah,
and so I got my friend Hart to play, and Hart's an amazing musician.
Our Hancock, shout out to him. He's awesome.
Dope. He's dope, and I think he still lives in the Bay Area with his wife and daughter. Mm-hmm. Who incidentally, I think they both went to my high school. His current wife now, I think she went to his high school, and he's just like this amazing guitarist. And he was really into like the technology of guitars. Like he would have like all of like what's that called, the EBO? Is that yeah. And he introduced me to that, and like. He loved like Dream Theater and like Stabbing
Prague stuff.
Prague, lots of Prague. So his influence came into
Porcupine Tree.
Yeah, and he actually raised a bunch of money to like get us to record an Amphoteric album, like him, me, and Craig, and it was like a 3-piece. And I played bass this time because he didn't feel comfortable playing bass, so I was just like, I'll do it. And then we wrote like a whole bunch of new songs. I think we had 1 or 2 that were from ours that
was that Rivers of Understanding.
Rivers of Understanding.
And then what? Can I interrupt though?
Please.
One day at rehearsal, you bring this fool. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? Like, oh, it's Hart. He's my guitar tech.
Yeah.
And then he's in the band suddenly, and it was like it was okay because I had left, and I like you asked me, I gave you my blessing, and yeah, he did some really cool versions of our arrangements.
Yeah.
And then he would like hear this fake story that they were touring in Europe and it was like I think, live in Belgium and like
I think it was just like, being young and like wanting to have that kind of press
on the
album. So he just like he would write. So he's very creative, I think. But then when I left, it was like him and Craig, and then he hired this other bassist who was also like a big prog rock fan. And I think they did 2 albums after that. Right. And they're like totally different. There's like it's like very metal and very different. It's bizarre.
Like people who like snarky indie documentaries. That it's like the story of Amphoteric is its own story because by the end there were so many members in the band and it was just completely different people.
It wasn't even like the same band. I think it was just like the name. It's like why did the name thing? I think as soon as you left, we should have called ourselves something different. And then as soon as I left, they should have called themselves something different.
Well, Amphoteric originally had we had a kind of a sense of humor. We loved Real Big Fish. We loved we loved Green Day, and
when we started, I mean, ska was really huge.
Ska was big. We didn't have horns. We were the ska band without horns.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And but like Amphoteric, the name I remember in chemistry class. It was like it's a substance that based on it's such a nerdy name for a ska.
Yeah, you called me up. You're like, Tim, what do you think of this name for our band? Well, I think it was all in one call. I think you called me and you're like, do you want to be in a band with me? And I remember because I was in the kitchen and you were like, and also, what do you think of this name? It's called Amphoteric. This is what it means. And you broke it down to me.
And so it's something that's both, that can be acidic or
either
basic.
Acidic or basic, yeah.
Based on the electrons.
pH scale 7, which water is.
Yeah, and so water's an amphoteric substance. So I was like, that's such a great name. It's still an ill name for a band. I should call it. We should do a song, The Story of Amphoteric. but through all this, like a element of sadness, because we met because I grew up, in Oakland, and then my dad got a different job, and we moved down to the Monterey Peninsula. So I went to this Catholic school for a year where you'd been since what grade? Kindergarten?
Yeah, I went there since, I might have even gone to preschool there, I think. Yeah.
Santa Catalina. I visited for 4th grade to see if I liked it. And, I was a goofy kid, but I met you and you were like so nice. And we were both like, oh, we're weird. We're both weird 10-year-olds in like this school of very serious, strict Catholic.
Oh yeah.
students.
No, I was definitely the kid who would always get sent to like the corner or like sent outside for being disruptive, and like the girls would ew. Like I was the ew kid, that all the girls were scared of and like hated. And
Fifth, but one of the reasons I wanted to go to Santa Catalina is because I met you.
Well, yeah, when I saw you, I really wanted to be the one to, because every time a new student would come to the school, they would the teacher would assign one student to sort of be their like buddy that would like follow them around.
Because I was like weirdly tall. I had a bowl cut. I had these big,
huge glasses.
Huge glasses. I was like, I didn't have my retainer yet, but I was really like I was a weird kid. Like I'd say moo and cow and like obsessed with all this stuff.
I was like, who is this kid? I need to know him.
And my mom, she dropped me off to school. She's like, remember, Andrew, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And I totally blew it. Like,
no, you didn't. I think you did. You may have blown it for them, but to me, you made the perfect impression. And as soon as I met you, I knew that we should be friends. Well, so I think you made the right impression. I just think society wasn't ready for you.
Thank you, Tim. We hit it off instantly. And like when I remember fifth grade, the first day, I sat next to you and I went, I remember you. And you went, I remember you. And I was like, this dude is going to be like one of my best friends. And the fact that fifth grade was traumatic because I hit puberty young. I missed all my friends in Oakland. I was sucked at sports. Our teacher, David Wickham, was just not,
He was interesting.
he was not trying to be a teacher.
No.
And he couldn't deal with the classroom. And like, so it was us. And then this kid who was a year older who lived in Carmel Valley, who you were friends with from church from back in the day. How long had you known Jason?
I knew Jason since as far back as I can remember. I remember he came to because his mom and dad who adopted him had gone to our church pretty much since I was like 1 or 2 or something like that. So pretty much ever since I can remember, I knew Jason. Yeah.
And he was like a ridiculously funny, brilliant kid. He would always get in trouble because he had like a cough and he'd cough like in class.
Yeah.
Like,
he was very loud. Like he's definitely not the person like, I don't know, like, especially I love movies now. His brand of humor in movies might have annoyed me now. Like, just because he's like...
What, like the slapstick stuff?
Well, just like if something was funny, he would laugh like the loudest. Like it sounded fake. It sounded like he was like just like almost like he was screaming. Like you could hear his vocal cords like strain when he would like laugh. And then I remember we were watching like Independence Day. And at the State Theater in Monterey, and he was just like laughing so loud, and this guy behind him was like, "Oh, can you be quiet?"
Jason,
he's like, "That's just how I laugh."
He's like 11, like that's just how I laughed. This dad, this grouch. Jason, I remember we see the Brady Bunch Hawaiian Vacation movie, and like he was definitely like inappropriately laughing at the scenes he did that weren't that funny.
Oh yeah, the Brady Bunch killed him.
Jason had.
I thought it was so funny.
He was adopted, and he'd lost his mom to cancer tragically when he was like second or third grade, right?
And I remember her, and and so that kind of put a big strain on him and his dad's relationship.
Because his dad was strict, and Jason would escape into like wrestling. And
Jason loved wrestling.
Computer games. He had this one computer game that was like a rap production emulator. It was like early rap beats, and you could make it trigger samples. So you'd play like these 80s beats, and one of them was like the guy would go Hard Rock School. He'd go Hard Rock School don't need no college. And the other one was like, don't treat me that like I hang around your booty crack. I
remember that.
Don't treat me that like I hang around your booty crack. You can make beats and then trigger these like samples that were like approximation of hip hop. Hard Rock School don't need no college. And then he had this AI program that was like very advanced for 93.
It was supposed to be like a computer therapist. So you would like tell it like Dr. Spezzo wanted to deal with your problems. He's like, I'm Dr. Spezzo. So I would like to I would help you with your problems. Type your problem and I will help you answer.
So they bought that for Jason because he'd been through this trauma.
For sure. So he was in therapy for sure.
His dad bought him his program with be like, Dr. Spezzo, will you lick my butthole? We'd be like, do not talk to me like that.
No, he would like, well, you could get him to repeat the curse word back to you.
Yeah.
If you were like, if you're a doc, you're like, you could say something like, my butthole makes me very angry. And he's like, and so Dr. Spates would be like, why do you think your butthole makes you very angry? It would
Jason would be sitting on the computer and be like,
it would like, and he would like fall off his chair, he'd like hit his bed, and just like, he would just, and then his dad would come in and be like, Jason, you're being too loud. And he's like, I can't help it. And he'd like,
that's just how I laugh.
Yeah. And so a lot of times we would go down to the basement, like his basement. Like, first of all, his house was one of those houses that's like constantly in states of like repair. There's like carpets.
His dad was an architect.
Yeah, but like I think he's still working on it now.
It's like the Winchester Mystery
It
House.
is like he's still carpeting it, still painting parts of it. And so in the basement there was just like rolled up carpet. There was like a piece of a car that was like covered in plastic, and there was this TV down there with the cable box. And so we would go down there and we would watch wrestling and like throw each other against the carpet as like the ropes of the wrestling, and we would like reenact. And like Jason loved the villains. He was all about the heels. The heels. He was all about the heels.
Like Rowdy. What's Rowdy Piper?
He loved Rowdy Piper.
Yeah.
Brutus Beefcake. Ravishing Rick Rude.
And now wrestling is like, Jason was the original hipster. Wrestling is like so mainstream. And then it was too, but like he loved wrestling. He'd always brag about it. I mean, he once he called me, he goes, Andrew, I got to tell you something. And I go, yeah.
The early 90s,
he goes, I got a magazine where the sexiest woman in wrestling's butt is shown. Stuff like that. Like it was like this weird thing where like the naked girls in wrestling was, you know, now it's tame, but like, look, it's girls wrestling. Like,
yeah.
And we'd be down there watching R-rated movies. Jason,
his dad would come down. He's like,
what are you watching?
You're watching them girls.
And it flipped to Tiny Toons. No, Mr. Barton, it's bad.
Yeah, well, because like sometimes he would get those like the previews of like the pay-per-view like swimsuit model things, you know, and we would like watch, or sometimes they would actually like have the shows on, and we'd be like, he's like, what are you looking at those swimsuit women? And we're like, no, we're not,
because like we were all kids, and then in that year we all kind of grew up, and I remember like Jason, I lived in Carmel Valley too, and like it was so far away from Monterey and where everyone lived, like half hour, an hour to get anywhere. So Jason and I would hang out a lot after you and I met, and we just fell in love with prank calls, and like we would conference call. I have tapes and tapes. And
you should do an episode where you talk about Jason and you play some of the tapes, because that's like amazing.
We have him on calls. Like it was just, we'd call two places at once, or like we'd call someone and he'd start singing, or we call someone and he'd pretend like, Mom, when are you gonna pick me up? I'm not doing them justice, but they were like better than the Jerky Boys. And I remember one 4th of July, his dad had this 4th of July party, and we all went into his room, right? He had a phone in his room, and we picked this one number, and we just called these people who were having a 4th of July party 100 times. We were ruthless, like obnoxious, and we just called and 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 called, and they put us on. They eventually like just unplugged their phone, but we were just like so bad. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah,
that was. And then I switched school. For middle school, we all kind of scattered. You and I went to different schools, and we had this birthday party at the boardwalk. It was just you, me, and Jason, because I didn't have any friends, and riding the roller coasters, and like,
oh yeah, that's so fun.
We were getting on the log ride, and he got his foot wet, and he got all mad, and like Jason would get really like, he was so happy, then he'd get so mad so quick, and so that's some background. And then Jason was like the third wheel in like our trio of homies. And then something kind of like really tragic happened. You want to talk about it? Because it leads into us forming together and writing music,
Yeah. On Halloween, one year, I think it was the year I was in 8th grade, Jason came to a Halloween party at my house, and he dressed up. He was just wearing his uniform from... did he go to Palma? Is that where he was going?
Yeah, which was a boys' private school.
All boys' private school. And he was wearing his Palma, and we were like, "What did you?" And my mom or something asked him, like, "What are you dressed up at?" He's like, "I'm a student," like for Halloween. Like he was he would do that a lot, or like he would.
One year he dressed up with a tie and a tie and a suit. What are you? I'm America's greatest fear, a white Republican male. It's like a 13 or 14-year-old kid saying this stuff.
Yeah. He was really into Ross Perot, I remember.
And Dan Quayle. And he was just weirdly, without the internet, he knew everything about politics.
Yeah, he read a lot. Dude
was a genius. So go ahead. So
So anyway, Halloween. He came to my Halloween party, and then he left, and the party was dying down.
Tell us the story, man. You told when I was here when we were working on this project. I was in town, and you told me this story that kind of took the night apart. You both had a friend, Armand or something.
Oh yeah, Armand. I think it was Armand or Armando or something like that.
A friend who was in your class who.
Yeah, and we somehow I knew him from like I don't know if it was from middle school or something. Like somehow I knew this person, but I think he was an 8th grader when I was a 7th grader. And then when he went to high school, he went to Palma.
Okay, with Jason.
And he's just kind of this big goofy kid, and he was just kind of funny. And like Jason always would like reveled in like really bizarre people. He loved bizarre people and would think they were so funny.
That's why he loved us. We were all weird kids.
And so I remember that's the last thing he said to me when he walked out the door. He's like Armando or whatever like that.
But you told me a story and made me laugh so much because like you were sitting on your couch eating candy and you're talking about Armando or whatever. And then 2 hours later when he leaves, he goes, ha ha ha, Armando.
Yeah.
He continues his story. That was such a Jason thing. And so.
Tragically, Mr. Barton got into a car accident. A drunk driver veered into the wrong lane and hit the car with Jason and Mr. Barton in it, and Jason was killed. And it was
drunk 19-year-old kid.
Drunk 19-year-old kid on Halloween, and that was kind of really kind of turned my world upside down because at that point, Jason was probably my closest friend. I'd known him forever, and we were sort of like a trio, you, me, and Jason. And it was a very hard thing to have to deal with. And I don't know. It's one of those things you sometimes think you've cried all the tears you're going to cry for somebody, and then it just kind of comes back in waves, and you remember.
Well, he had this thing on his desk that said, what is it? Winners never quit and quitters never win, right?
Yeah, I have it.
And
right here.
Yeah, this rock that
his dad gave it to me when he passed. And I would say it's a little bit of a hokey statement, but it's also like I thought it was super sweet that his dad gave it to me because his dad gave it to Jason because his dad had really big plans for Jason. I mean, Jason was really, really smart. Jason probably could have gone to any college. He probably would have gone Ivy League. I wouldn't doubt it.
Jason would have been a crazy, awesome politician or lawyer or like
lobbyist or something, or even like stand-up comedian. I think even he had so much potential.
He was special, and the thing about Jason was like his laughter and his obsession with wrestling and computer games and stuff was a way for him to sublimate his pain. Mm-hmm. That he. Carmel Valley, like I said, it's far away. They lived in this giant house deep in the woods under all these pine trees down a hill. So it was always dark and windy, and the swimming pool was always covered with pine needles. And
the house is always in a state of disrepair, like unfinished, like certain windows were covered in plastic.
It was like when the beauty and strength of his mom left, Jason was forever. I'd met him in that state of like suspended animation of like, he always talked about her. And obviously, losing your mom as a young kid, I can't imagine how messed up that is. But then his father losing his little boy senselessly on a Halloween night, like for that's one of the reasons why, I eventually became sober, was like thinking about how alcohol, that was just like a messed up, insane thing. And that dude didn't really get in much trouble. He had to tell some speeches in schools. Didn't have to really I don't think he really went to jail because it was, I don't know. It was just,
I remember he did have to, I mean, he was like either on probation or something. Like he wasn't like scot free when he did it.
Okay.
But yeah, I've only heard like stuff like rumors and stuff like that, but apparently he got in trouble for drunk driving again. And
yeah,
I feel bad for him in the sense that I'm sad that he made those decisions, and that I'm sure it's changed his life, which is kind of an interesting thing to think about. Like, it's like as our lives were turned upside down, I mean, his was too. I mean, right, I don't think you can ever get away from that having done that and taken a life like that. So,
and he had to write letters to Jason's dad,
which I thought was really kind of awful for Jason's dad
to get those letters, to relive that.
Because even if you never read them, you know who they're from, and when they show up, I thought that was kind of a weird thing that the judge did. I think the judge was just trying to teach the kid a lesson, but I don't know. I thought it was a little bit unfair for Robert, and Jason. And Jason was adopted, and Jason was very curious about his adopted parents. And his dad had said something like, once you graduate high school, or like when you're 18 or something like that, I'll take you and we'll find your biological parents. And so it was something that he wanted to do with Jason. I talked to Robert not too long ago, and he was talking about something. He's not sure if they even knew if he died or anything, but
what, his biological parents?
I don't know if
they don't know if
they're aware.
passed.
Well, it's just I think it was they weren't very involved.
Sure.
Yeah, they were.
And I remember you told, this was like when I was here last time for some work stuff, we talked about this and we had some tears, and you pieced the story together of how you were in the yard playing with the fog machine with your brother. Your dad and mom got a call. Your dad had to put on his coat and leave, and you knew something was wrong. He had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, it was weird. I saw my parents in the doorway of the front of the house when Dale and I were back inside, and my dad and my mom are just like whispering. My dad's putting on his jacket and leaving, and I'm like, it's 9:30. My parents go to bed at 9:30, so I was like, I knew something was different. And then my mom kind of came in the living room, sat us down, and told us what had happened. And it's weird when you're told something like that, because you don't believe it at first. You hear it and the words kind of come out and they kind of feel hollow, like they don't have any, you kind of don't really believe what you just heard. And then when it finally sinks in, then you just, I don't know. I ended up just running out into the front yard and looking up at the stars. And
I remember that I found out that a kid had died the next day at school, and I was like, that's really sad. And I went to my guitar lesson, and my mom knew, and she didn't tell me because she wanted me to be focused. And then we had a good guitar lesson, and being in the car, my mom told me, and I remember I just broke down. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And, didn't feel real because we'd had all these really real visceral memories of growing up so recently, and we'd always talked on the phone, and he's always there. We couldn't text. I'd call his house, and it was a local number, so I'd always talk to him. And I remember, I never told this story to anyone, but I remember I came home and I just called his number, and it just rang for 100 times because I just really wanted to talk to him, and I really wanted to be there. And that was this memory of I couldn't reach out and talk to my friend. And then you and I didn't talk for a while because it was a lot to deal with. I didn't mean for this to get to talk.
Oh no, it's okay.
Yeah, but
I mean,
we didn't talk for a while.
Yeah, I think there's we weren't going to the same schools, and I know it was painful for both of us. I know it was painful for you, and it definitely hurt me greatly, and it was hard to yeah. And I remember my parents, and a lot of it too was my parents sent me that summer. My parents sent me to Mr. Barton's house, and I'd go to Mr. Barton's house every week
to try to be a son figure in his life.
Yeah, it was. I don't want to say weird because I think it was very kind of my parents to do that, and I think it toughened me a little bit to it, just because I had to confront it every week. I didn't want to go. That was probably the last place in the world I wanted to be.
Well, and then the next 4th of July, he threw a party with everyone.
Yeah.
And that was being in his room with his posters up and his books still.
That was really, that felt, walking into, it's weird. I don't know why that is. There's probably some psychological reason for it, but why walking into somebody's room that is past, that feeling when you walk in just feels different. It's so bizarre. It's
that was still his stuff.
Yeah, because you smell him. You know what I mean? You smell the things that were his, and you see everything, and you just kind of everything takes on a different. Yeah, everything you look at you look at it kind of in a different way.
It's like the shell of a hermit crab that has gone on. And Jason was, what was so crazy about it is he was such a special, unique guy who the three of our friendship was like one unit. We were a crew. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember going to that 4th of July thing his dad threw, which was sweet. And I also remember going back and his dad had painted the room and taken Jason's stuff down. And that was like a healing thing. Like, oh, okay. We can all start to move on and remember our homie.
Yeah.
And you and I,
because he left it up for a while. I remember when I would go over there, like it was Jason's stuff was just
the computer was still there.
Everything was just there, the same for like quite a few weeks. I remember when I would go over.
Yeah, because how do you? It's just such.
But then eventually he started doing it, and I think initially I was a little bit. It bugged me a little bit
that he'd changed it.
Yeah, because it was like, but you know,
you wish he'd left it.
Yeah, saying. Yeah. But then when I would start going over more, I don't remember how many times I went over that summer, but it was a few. It was at least like 5 or 6 weekends. I would think, and one day I even stayed there, and I even stayed in Jason's room, and that was a weird experience
with Jason's stuff.
I think this was after he had taken the stuff.
I didn't know
it would turn in much into a guest room, and but it was weird though because it was like we stayed in there, and Jason. They both rooms had like a shower, but Mr. Barton had to use that shower because his shower was broken because he'd been working on it, like trying to like make it so like there was only one shower that they used, and like
so he like woke you up early to use the shower.
Yeah, pretty much. It was interesting.
You know, but Mr. Barton, I mean, one of the happy thing is he eventually found love, and my parents always see him and his new wife around town, and he found a really sweet Southern lady who kind of matched his. You know, Robert Barton was the first time I'd ever met a Southern man who was kind of genteel, and he spoke with an accent, and he'd get mad. And
he was pretty grumpy. He's a pretty grumpy dude. Like even, I mean, always like he was. It wasn't like just because Jason passed that he got grumpy. He's a grumpy man like pretty much his whole life. But I don't know. I told you I just recently went to a car show with him.
Yeah, you did tell me. How'd that go?
It was good. Well, the car is interesting. It has significance because he bought the car as sort of like an heirloom that he was going to pass down to Jason.
Oh wow, dude!
And one of the reasons I went over that summer is because I was there kind of helping him take this car apart. It was this 1937 Packard 12, I think that's right. And
great memory, Tim.
And it was the super weathered and like rusted, and so it was like being out in the hot Carmel Valley sun, ripping off.
Wait, was this recently, or was this like back in the day?
This was like the summer after Jason passed.
So you really were mired in like the shell of his life.
Yeah,
you became the surrogate son in a way, and
kind of, yeah. I mean, I could tell that it hurt him as much to have me there as it hurt me to be there. But I think we both kind of knew that it was like sort of necessary pain to sort of like help us move on, because he really didn't have anybody. I think his sister died like a year after Jason died.
So fixing this car became this metaphor for the motion of getting on with your lives.
Yeah.
And then you took it to the show recently, which was,
yeah,
dude, I didn't know this part of this story. This is crazy.
Yeah, and so it's this car that, I mean, it means a lot to him in that, but I think it's more of like the completion of the car, because I think he's talked about even selling it now, but it was more about just like taking this something, because he obviously his house is in state of repair, although it's almost done now apparently. So his
beautiful house.
Yo, it's beautiful, and
tennis courts and the pool, and like he eventually cleaned the pine needles.
Yeah, he's so it's like he's finally sort of like his wife is great. He's finally sort of getting his life together, and once he finishes the house in Carmel Valley, he's moving to Oklahoma City.
Really? Is that where his wife is from?
Yeah, his wife is from, and her family's out there, and he said he's just going to live in Oklahoma City for the rest of his life.
We're jumping around a lot.
Yep.
But last time I saw him, we were playing this New Year's festival, and the same when we played with Amphoteric, I would play it as MC Lars after when I could, and we were there for him, and he couldn't make it out to the show, so we did an a cappella Mr. Raven for him. You remember that?
Yeah.
And you, gosh. You would be my hype man a lot, and
we just pay off for first night for sure. Because a lot of the people, everybody's like visiting family and friends for the holidays, but I was always there because like Monterey is where I'm from. So
So we performed that for him, and I think that gave him like some joy. Let's go back.
Sure, let's go back.
So you and I hadn't talked for a minute. I remember Jason's dad Jason had this really beautiful tie. It was like the American flag, and I wore it during my 8th grade graduation. People were
awesome.
like, "Oh, you're so patriotic!" Like they were making fun of me, but it was like, no, it's my boy's tie.
Yeah. Same. People make fun of this all the time. It's funny.
This winners never quit thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Jason, that like I wanted to honor him, and
yeah, it means something to us, you know.
Yeah, and he, you and I hadn't talked, and one of the things we said was, you know, we need to get together, and we went to your house, and we both were learning guitar. We both were getting like kind of good. We could play like Rancid and Green Day and Nirvana songs, and we had this chord progression. And just like when you and I had been making songs on your brother's keyboard and silly lyrics on the first MNP stuff, we then wrote this song called Michael, which was Jason's middle name. And the song starts, "The day you left, I called you up to see if it was true." That was about me calling him. But you weren't there. You'd gone away. It hurt to see it through. Now what's going to happen? I don't really know. Can't seem to find your footsteps in the freshly fallen snow. Something like... And the chorus was what? Michael...
How we love you. Your spirit still lives on or something.
Your laughter's like music. Yep. I was always laughing. For you, we wrote this song.
Yeah.
And...
Actually, his middle name is actually Matthew, but I think we called it Michael just so it's not like him.
Obvious.
Yeah.
Well, now the truth is out.
The truth is out.
That song was special. And even though I never got to say goodbye, Michael, know that you're a star. Michael, you can fly, or something like that. Because thinking about like just how quickly his soul would have left his body when they got in a car wreck, on that day. And that song, dude, was the genesis of Amphoteric and us reconnecting creatively. And then we started making videos and, some problematic, like offensive, like inappropriate videos. And so all this like...
Well, I think that was some of those videos were the impetus for MC Lars, I think a little bit. Cause you had your cartoon character Horace.
Right.
Who's kind of like, cause you love the Simpsons. So he's kind of your Bart Simpson. He's kind of like a bad boy, kind of had the skull shirt.
Yeah, Horace was the spiky hair, he was based on Link, and he had a huge overbite with 3 teeth. It was Roger Rabbit, Link, and Bart Simpson. That was Horace.
Yeah, and for some reason you got really obsessed with the name Lars,
which I talked about with Chris on the podcast from the Heavyweights movie.
Yeah, and then you were MC Lars Horace.
And we did
Lars Horace first.
We did Lars Horace, the movie, where he had this friend who was Biff, who had a pentagram on his shirt, which our parents didn't like. And Biff had a devil tail.
I played Biff.
And there was Bernice.
You played Lars Horace.
Bernice the beaver, who was a dude, he was like a transgender beaver, who was a girl, who was also a guy. And they were friends. And one crazy thing is when I met Hank Ketchum, who created Dennis the Menace, he was from Monterey and he did a talk at the library, and I was flipping through my cartoons and he took Bernice. I was like, this is Bernice. Bernice is mean. And Ketchum was like, oh, well, he should look like this. And he drew a version of my character in the Dennis the Menace style. And I was like, this is dope. So anyway, that's a side note. Shout out to librarians. And my mom brought me to that. So yeah, then we started Amphoteric and the Lars Horace stuff. And then at this point, since I was Lars Horace, you needed a name, and you'd gone by Devin Thompson. What's Devin?
My middle name.
That's really your middle name.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And then MNP became Major Noise Pollution, became you, the MC, and you were the only guest on my first album that ever came out on a label. And you did, and that was Escape from Robot Island. And so the first shows, you'd come up to Stanford, because you were at Diablo Valley doing film school, or...
No, I was just trying to get my general education requirements so I could go to the Academy of Art in San Francisco.
Okay.
But I really hated Diablo Valley College. I was working at my uncle's Bible bookstore. It was just like stressful. So like I would escape and go to Berkeley and visit like my then sort of girlfriend.
This girl you were chasing.
I was chasing her, but
were you together?
Kind of, not really.
I remember, and then we went together and we auditioned for The Real World. When they had an open casting in Berkeley.
That was fun.
And we spent a lot of time in the Bay, like in Berkeley, and then you'd come to Stanford because you weren't happy at Diablo Valley.
No.
And the first MC Lars shows, you would come up dressed in a tracksuit with a giant clock around your neck, like Flavor Flav, which, and rap, you knew all my songs. You'd been listening to them for 4 or 5 years. And
you'd always send me the albums, and then I thought I was always impressed. They were always like, you always drew some cartoon, and you had like the liner notes.
You had stuff that probably on CDR that no one in the world has but you. Because every time I made something, I was like, got to send it to Tim.
Yeah.
Because we did an album, MNP and Lars H, which was like punk songs, some of the Amphoteric songs. It was.
Yeah, we just did it on your like little 8-track mixer, didn't we?
Yeah, that
was it a 4-track? I don't remember.
It was a 4-track that you could make an 8-track by bouncing everything to the last stereo, and that became, those songs were demos that became Amphoteric. So then we were like, it was just this. I feel like in an alternate universe, you and I could have been like an ICP thing, like it's a group. And at one point, I've never really talked about this, but it's funny that Daniel eventually played guitar with Avril Lavigne. I was almost going to be the support slot on her second tour, her world tour, because Network managed her, and she had heard my stuff and liked it for some reason, and like we were about to do it. So you learned the Lars Horace stuff, the MC Lars stuff on guitar. Remember you, and then the tour didn't happen, and you were coming to Stanford, and then we did the Robot Island song, which was based on a short film you did. Because during all this time, you were making these incredible movies and going to film school, right? Robot Island would the film come first or the song?
Well, I wanted to make the movie first, and so then when I pitched the concept, I was like, "What if we did a song called this?" And then
you pitched it to me like on the phone.
I think and then when we recorded it, it was sort of like my verse was sort of based on what I thought the movie would be. And then in college, I ended up many years later, I ended up making a short film.
But it's funny, it's a story of these killer robots, and then that was kind of inspired Robot Kills. That song was kind of based, which you did the video for.
I did,
which we're fast forwarding a lot, but you wrote this, and what was fresh about it is your verse was fast. It was like Outkast. It was choppy. What's that you say, boy? Haven't you heard a couple? Yeah. It was quick, and it was dope. We're gonna end the episode with that song.
Okay, dope.
But you nailed it, and everyone when they listen to the record, they'd be like, "Yo, that MNP verse. Who's MNP?" I'm like, "Yeah, but what about the rest of the album?" Everyone wanted to like give me props for putting you on that because you really took it seriously. You came to Stanford and you recorded in the studio, the makeshift closet we had at Colin Bay.
So cool. I loved it.
And then because for my sound art class, we actually premiered that song with like 8 channels in a room full of speakers that were in a circle that each speaker had like a different sound. So like the drum and the kick would be like, it was like being in the middle of this crazy mix. We triggered and made an 8-part mix that we then wrapped. And
that's so cool.
Got a great grade on. I got a great grade on
nice.
Because you came in. I think I got an A+ in that class. The only A+ I ever got in college.
Oh, whoa.
So that was tight. Sound design. So that was the first MC Lars record. And at that point, there was no label or anything because I hadn't even gone abroad, So anyway, so that was that. And the meantime, you were making all these other videos. What you did, the Bugbear was another one of your movies?
That's my college thesis film, yeah.
And you won awards for it in a science fiction
I won for Robot Island, actually.
Oh, cool.
I won 3rd place in the Seattle Science Fiction Short Film Festival.
That's tight.
It was fun.
And then we did a song for, you did a documentary about how lint was made, right?
Yeah.
Brooks.
And then, and I called you up and I thought that we needed a theme song for this. Because my whole idea was that anything can be interesting if you make if the documentary is entertaining enough.
It's true.
It's anything can be boring or interesting depending on how you approach the subject matter. I was like, I need to pick the most boring thing I can think about and make a documentary about it. So I made it about dryer lint. And so then I called you up and I was like, hey, can you make this song? Oh, we got to tell this story, I think.
Well, yeah, I definitely brought it up for this story. This story is ridiculous.
So you can't, and like I asked you to write a song, and the same day you sent me back a demo.
Which, I think I'd had the music chilling.
Sure. I'm sure like you had because you're always making beats and being creative.
When my soul creative inspirational bandmate needs a song for a project, I got to send you quick.
No, and it was so good.
It was based on your ideas. And I sent you this rough demo, and it was like, and at the end, I'm doing like this freestyle about cutting and killing people and stabbing people in the eyes.
I'm gonna lacerate your face with my feet, kick your face in half. You are a whack MC, and you make me laugh like lint.
And I go, there's dead bodies on the lawn. It's like very icy.
Yeah, taking lint can make you take a number 2 on your parents' lawn all night long. It's so strong.
And so I sent you this demo, and I was hosting it on the MC Lars MC Lars server.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, I hired Mike Sapone, who did The Graduate and Lars Attacks, and we talked about it on the podcast. He did some of the brand new big records and Taking Back Sunday. We did this hugely produced version of it that I was hoping you would use for your video, which I think you did.
I did eventually. Once you sent me, you're like, hey, I got this much better version of it. You mind using
which was
this?
Sick.
It was so good. And you had like kids on the vocals.
Yeah, we had his son Santino sang on it, and we got that mixed and mastered, and it ended up coming out in 21 Concepts, that version. But the demo version, there was a kid, Tom, my former manager, had this compilation of kids songs albums. The Bare Naked Ladies were on it, Jason Mraz, like all these people. And he wanted to give one of his clients, MC Lars, a shot. So like, yo, do you have the track? And it was on the server, and both were on the server, but I sent Network the link to the demo that I sent you with this violent freestyle. I was like,
lacerate your face.
So Tim, pull up. So this one, we got to pull this up. So this got released, and parents bought this CD, For the Kids Volume 3.
What's it called?
It's For the Kids Volume 3. It's on Amazon. And parents bought this album, and there was a certain song they were concerned about that ended up on this compilation. You guys can find this MP3. It's not available through any of my stuff, but it is on Amazon. Do you see it? For the Kids Volume 3, MC Lars, Lint. Yeah. We're going to read some of the parents' reviews because I still feel bad about this. But to be fair, someone at Network should have quality checked the masters that this was not a song to be on the kids.
Okay, so this one says, not a song for young children. Any kid old enough to be comfortable with highly graphic, quote-unquote, humorous violence of the Black Knight scene in Monty Python the Holy Grail will enjoy this song. Towards the end of the song contains the lyric, lacerate your throat and your face, kick your face in half.
This is on Amazon. You guys can find us on Google.
But they still give the song a 4-star review.
4 out of 5, not bad. What's the rest say?
It says the line is meant to mock the types of death threats that often show up in rap lyrics. What? Oh wait, maybe they thought you were like operating on a new level. And it's pretty funny that someone old enough to understand. Pretty funny for someone old enough to understand the context. However, the song appears on a CD called For the Kids, which features toddler favorites such as the Eensy Weensy Spider, Wheels on a Bus. It would be extremely easy for a parent to think a song called the Lint Song is going to be perfectly harmless, and something that a toddler who enjoys Wheels on the Bus might enjoy as well. Don't let the title fool you. If you care about your child's exposure to violent subject matter, make sure you listen to the song all the way through before giving it to your kids.
I don't think we've ever laughed this hard on the podcast. I'm sorry. I'm just like,
it's just so amazing. Like, it's like, because it's so like, it's just like one of those things, you send them the wrong.
Accident.
But who didn't proofread? No, like, did the people not listen to the songs before? Nobody, there was no quality control person to listen to the whole album and say, hey, that Lint song kind of has some violent lyrics. By the way,
why is the mix horrible? And why does it not sound like it's a demo?
Yeah.
And then I remember all that the guitar's out of tune. It's just sloppy. It's just a mess. But it went out on this, and this album sold like 15,000 copies. So it's like, MC Lars, needless to say, I was not on volume 4. Are there any more reviews?
That's the only one I see.
Yeah, that's.
But
good.
It's specifically for your song, so like that's pretty great.
It's
for the kids.
Volume 3. So, out of all. So eventually, to make a long story short, you did a lot of. Let's rewind. Okay, so in 5th grade, one of the things you like blew me away was the fact that you knew about this lost, rare Weird Al record that I didn't believe existed, because 5th grade is when I really got into him, and I'd save my allowance money and buy all his albums. And there was one album he did, which was not one of his hits.
Yeah, it didn't top the charts or anything.
It only went gold, not platinum.
I know, right?
Yeah,
which is very rare for him.
And he's
a G. He's always making
he's pure hits.
Pure hits.
He's and
he's the best.
You'd had Polka Party, and you were telling me about it.
Because it was like.
You buy at the supermarket?
Yeah, because my parents wouldn't like take me to like music stores. Like because it was just to them it was like a waste of money. But I saw it and I was like, Mom, can I please have this? I love Weird Al. Can I have this? And I didn't have any Weird Al music, but I knew about him from you, I think.
And I remember you heard his song Patterns on PBS.
Yeah, and you somehow you had showed me some videos or something of him, which got me interested. And like,
no, I think to be fair, you probably had it before you met me, or maybe you said you found it at the supermarket. I don't know. Maybe I did get you into him. I don't know. You knew who he was.
I knew who he was, and I feel like you probably told me about Al, or like I had heard like people mention like, oh, I'm fat, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I picked it up and I told you I was like, oh, I love his album Polka Party.
And I thought you were making this up. I mean, I that's my bad.
In fairness, I made up a lot of stuff when I was a kid.
Well, and then I remember. Okay, so you had Polka Party, and then you let me borrow it, and I gave you Even Worse, and that became part of the fact that.
And then my tape recorder ate your Even Worse tape. But then I went and bought you a CD.
Yeah. No, it was very sweet of you, man. You bought that. CDs were like so expensive, and you bought that.
I just felt so bad.
Thank you, Tim. I was not mad at all about that. But I remember one time, there was this guy, Adam Feltz, who then became this rapper called Mostel, who I had at Stanford once, and like he played a show and it didn't go well, and he wasn't happy. No one was happy, and so he was always like this redheaded kid on school who's kind of like not a bully, but kind of like definitely like into rap and kind of like thuggish. And I remember once for an 11-year-old Jewish kid, and you got in a snap fight with him, and you were doing all these punchlines from Fat by Weird Al that you knew, and you were just killing and making him laugh so hard. And it was like, that was tight. I knew where your material was from, but Weird Al was always a resonant, like important force in our lives as kids.
Oh, absolutely. He was
our hero. He still is.
Yeah. I remember, I'm so embarrassed about this now, but I remember in 8th grade, I was in like woodshop class or something like that. It was either 7th or 8th grade. And I loved the song Taco Grande. So I would sing it a lot. And the Latino kids in my class, they would like, this one guy heard me sing. He's like, what are you singing? And I was like, oh, it's a song of Taco Grande. He's like, oh, hey, sing it for my friends. And so he would like take me around, and I sang it because it's like
they knew
me butchering the Spanish language.
Right.
So they're just seeing this goofy white kid like rapping to Weird Al, but like saying all the silly things that he says in that song. And they're cracking up. And at the time, I was like, I'm loving the attention. But then as I got older, I was really like, oh, I was being really offensive. And like, they just thought it was funny watching this white guy really embarrass himself.
Yeah, that song has some good lines. Oh boy, Pico de Gallo. They sure don't make it like this in Ohio.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like his Spanish is pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And that's funny. I didn't know that story.
Yeah.
I remember, Tim, you were talking about how you were bullied in middle school, and it always made me feel protective of you, that this one kid who always bullied you, and you stood up to him one day and he stopped.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
It was weird. Well, it was 6th grade. I'd never been bullied. I had been like, at Catalina, I was ostracized by all the kids. They didn't like me. I was the stinky, weird kid that nobody liked.
Yeah, I can relate, dude. And I remember, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
There's this one girl that you liked, and you put a note in her locker, and everyone
found out about it.
Found out and was laughing. I thought that was so brave.
What it was is I liked this one girl, Gina. I liked her a lot.
Comes out.
I really, it's 5th grade.
Yeah.
And I really, really liked her. And I told her I liked her at the library. And she was like, but we're just friends. And so I was like, oh,
friends.
But, this is like me, 5th grade, just getting hormones and stuff like that.
Sure.
So then there's other girl, Michelle. And so I don't know why. I just got it in my head that I liked her. And so I put flowers in her locker and a note in her locker. And once everybody found out, it was like super embarrassing.
Well,
but I felt really bad because everybody was, I don't know, kids are so mean about that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, it's like you dare to be brave, I feel like Catholic school, especially where we went, it was very repressive. And I remember another thing was we'd formed MNP because there's supposed to be this talent show, right?
Mm-hmm.
The end of 5th grade, it was going to be the way we're going to show ourselves. And we'd written all these songs, and it was all exciting. And our teacher one day in class during the announcement, he goes, yeah, by the way, we're not having a talent show this year, so just maybe next year. And
yeah,
I was like, what the heck? It really, I don't know. It was a lot of crushing disappointments that year. And that now seems kind of like silly and like not to get worked up about is not worth it. But I remember that was also a spur in my side. Like, well, okay, guess we got to prove ourselves otherwise, you know? It was just, and another thing I remember, God, this is like therapeutic. There was a music, we had music class, right? And I love music class so much. And to get on the honor roll, you need to get like A's and B's, right? And I was a great kid, but you couldn't, for your behavior between scales from 1 to 3, like 1 is good, 3 is bad. If you have any 3s, you can't get on the honor roll. So I got like all A's and 1 B. And I was like, oh, why didn't I get on the honor roll? Because freaking Miss Nieves gave me a 3 in music class. Why? Because I was so excited and singing off key. You know, that's whack, man. Yeah. And that was like, I thought I'd show her. So like this year was a very trying year and you were always by my side.
But for all of their failings as teachers, I think they did do something really cool, which is they let me write a play and perform it.
That's true. For that Christmas.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to write a play. And they're like, all right. And you got to be Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's true. You're right, in the theater, because your dad was
in the huge theater.
Your dad was a drama director.
There was no talent show that year, but we had it was a big Christmas program. And that was like, it's like a 500 seat theater.
Right, and it was like around the kid, everything led up to this Polar Express.
Yeah.
And I remember you cast me as Santa Claus and I'd come out on the sleigh.
Oh, it was the best. Everybody loved it.
And the first night, it was 2 nights.
Yeah.
The first night was like great. And I was starting to feel like really cocky and happy that you put me in this role as Saint Nick. So the next night, Alf was the kid and I was Santa Claus. Remember Alf? And so the second night, they, like it was more people there and I was like, ooh, I'm going to do a little improvisation. Tim won't mind. My friend wrote the script. So Alf comes out, tells me his stuff. And, you know, I'm on this giant sleigh and Alf gets off my lap. And when he's leaving, I go, hey, kid. And he looks at me, I go, Merry Christmas. I was so proud of myself. Like, I really got into the role of Santa Claus.
I love it.
Merry Christmas. It's tight. Yeah, good job. Yo, high five.
High five. High five.
That was the Polar Express. Yeah. You know what? I'm not trying to be salty. My point is that you always were there for me. And then as I started doing MC Lars stuff, a lot of the first videos you ended up doing. So let's go over the list of the songs. Let's try to do it chronologically.
Well, I did. I want to say,
you did White Kids Are Hyphy.
Well, the first one I did was Demented Dimension.
Oh,
I did a video for Demented, just like on my own.
And that was on I think Insectivorous, which was the album I self-released in 2000, which is on the USB.
Lars Horace. That's Lars Horace. But
which, by the way,
I got into a film festival in Seattle.
That video?
Yeah, which is because I wanted to go to this film festival, so I just submitted it. I didn't hear anything back, and then I'm like walking to the film festival, and this guy's walking. He's like, "Oh, are you going to the film festival?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, do you have a film in there? And I was like, well, I don't really know. It's called Demented Dimension. He's like, is that the one, like, it's all weird and colorful and you're doing like this with your arms? I was like, yeah. He's like, no, you got in.
Dude, that's cool.
And it's really like, now I watch it, it's like really cringy. But like, it was definitely like, as soon as you started making music, I got it in my head that I wanted to make
that's the first video.
I wanted to make videos for you.
Well, I guess I had 2 videos. Insectivorous, which is on my YouTube. Me rapping around my parents' house, and then Demented Dimension is great. And that album, Insectivorous, I think holds up. It's like as good as, you know, Radio Pet Fencing. I'm not a huge fan of, other than our song. I think my pitch is all over the place, and it's Nothing to Fear is kind of like repetitive. Insectivorous, though, I was listening to Bloodhound Gang a lot, and I like how it's jazzy and funky. And you made the video, and then what was the next video after Demented Dimension? Was it White Kids Are Hyphy?
In that time period, I think we made some videos together, but they were like unrelated to your music.
Sure, we did the thing with the Cartel, Band in the Bubble.
Yeah,
that's phenomenal.
I think that was before White Kids.
Yeah, because that was during the period when I was trying to make Robot Kills. So here's what happened. Cartel had done this thing where, you know, they this is a lot of good stories on this episode. Cartel had written this album, and then Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper sponsored them to basically like live in like a recording studio, basically, or like a house that they could like
off Manhattan in this,
and they could just make music there, all sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
And a show, but they demoed everything. They were just doing the final overdubs of the record, and so
it was Band in a Bubble.
Band in a Bubble. So Tom had this idea. He's like, you should kind of make fun of this because this is not very punk rock. I was like, okay, Tom. I'm up for this challenge. So you and I made this elaborate video, and to be fair, you did most of the work. Where I realized we're gonna make this story where I'm living at home, which I was between records, 24 years old, living at home, making fun of these successful guys. Sorry, Cartel, and
you took it to him too.
And so we're in a box. If you haven't seen this, guys, Google MC Lars Cartel Band in a Box.
It's pretty good.
And we do a thing where we're trying to get Mountain Dew to sponsor. So I go into the box, my song box with the guitar and the lawn, and the way you edit it, I'm playing the car. I go, art is difficult, like I'm being such a baby. And we make the song, and then we call Mountain Dew and try. Oh, and then there's the whole thing where my mom like brings the mail and brings soda, and like
you just slap it out of her hands.
I go, Mom, artists are supposed to have dysfunctional relationships with their parents. Like my mom was a good sport. She didn't know we were gonna slap the soda out of her hands.
But she's just like, your mom's so sweet. She would just like she would always go along. Whenever we would cast your parents in videos, they would always go along with it.
Yeah, all four of our parents were very supportive.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like every one of our parents except my mom has been in one of your videos in some respect.
Right. So White Kids Aren't Hyphy, that's your dad at the beginning, like giving me the business.
That's dad.
And so what
he had no idea what he was saying, and every time I would like feed him the lines, he'd be like, Tim, I have no idea.
Don't go dumb.
He's like, I have no idea what I'm saying right now.
All the kids on the comments on the video were like, yo, that's Mr. Thompson, our drama teacher.
Yep.
So anyway, but what happened? So we finished this, and then I call you, and then you're the guy at the other line I'm trying to sell it to, and you're like, no, we actually prefer bands with talent. And then we do this thing where we show Cartel, I would say corporate whores.
Yep.
I would say this is not good music, and they did this song about how they're bad and how they're sellouts. And
yeah, your mom got really mad when the corporate whore thing came out. She's like, Andrew, she got really offended that you would like write that.
I went for the jugular just because I figured I should. But meanwhile, I'm living at home. I can't make my second record. My management company's not. They're sick of investing money in me. Graduate hasn't recouped. All my friends are getting their PhDs. I was like taking out my anger at like this. Felt like this stagnant period in my career, right? And so fast forward, this goes live. Then 2008, Mike Russo, who I'm doing a podcast with, he was our college booking agent who sometimes played guitar with us. He got me this dream tour with Young Jock, meet me at the mall, it's going down, and Cartel, and I would open. And it was the most money that I'd ever been offered for any tour. It was crazy. It was like 15 shows. It was ridiculous. And we're just about to get the tour, and then Cartel's manager calls, finds a video, and calls Concert Ideas. And Mike picks up. He happens to intercept the call. He goes, "Hello," and they're like, "Yeah, we saw this Cartel video. MC Lars is not going to be on this tour." And Mike goes, "Well, Crocs really wants Lars," which is not true. I'm only on the tour because it was a favor to Mike. And Mike, God bless him, intercepted the call. I was like, well, I'll talk to him, but I think he's on the tour. And anyone else he said had picked up the phone, I wouldn't have gotten that tour. So I get the call from Mike. Mike calls me and goes, well, Lars, you knew this day was coming. And I was so dumb. When I knew I was going to maybe get the tour, I should have put the video, at least made it private or unlisted. Yeah. So we made it private. And then we're on the tour, and we're talking to some of those guys afterwards, after the first show. And one of the guys goes, well, Lars, you're on a corporate sponsored tour sponsored by Crocs. Welcome to the sellout train. And then there was some members, they were drinking whiskey with a Dr. Pepper bottle. Okay. And Will from Cartel comes on the bus. He goes, Dr. Pepper, huh? That stuff will really ruin your career. And then walks off. And my bass player is like, he had to think about it for a minute, and he just started laughing. They had a good sense of humor about it. And yeah, I would run into those guys on Warped Tour and like at festivals. That's and it was funny. Always like, and once I said to Will, I said, dude, I'm sorry about the video, man. I'm sorry. And he said, he looked at me all mad. He goes, it's okay. He was not, the dude's really nice. And that dude can sing, and they rocked. So.
Yeah, but come on. Like, they didn't know you and you didn't know them. It's like.
And I was
they're a public figure. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Come on. And if you're going to take that kind of stuff seriously, I don't know.
They were good guys. I don't think they were actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Their team wasn't trying to have me tour them though.
Yeah, but I think that's cheesy. They should revel in that.
Mike, you're right, and everyone was saying
they were popular enough that like other people are making jokes.
Well, that was the thing, because like back then it was like having a major label and having money behind you and stuff was you needed that. It helped, but they were very much like aware of that their fans were like, this is they're on the Militia Group, which was a big label, which also had their subsidiary Sideshow had put out the Laptop EP. So I was connected to them through that too. So anyway, the video got a lot of views, which was tight.
That's pretty tight.
Okay, so then you did White Kids Aren't Hyphy, which we filmed around the Bay.
Robot Kills.
Which you did with Odin.
Yeah, my buddy Odin, who's a great music video director. He's directed videos for Cool Keith, Motion Man, who's also a Bay Area thing, and that video had Gift of Gab in it from Black Alicious.
Odin's awesome. He did he edited the Triforce video eventually.
He's done DJ Newmark videos. Like he's done a lot. He's
done stuff with
He's dope.
What's the label that Mayor Hawthorne is on?
Yeah, he did tons of videos for Mayor Hawthorne.
Yeah. And so that video is just the concept,
just like doing the camera and stuff for Mayor Hawthorne tour, and they did like a lot of promo. He like shot a lot of the promos.
Odin's chill, and he's got a very good perspective.
Yeah.
And there's 2 versions of White Kids Aren't Hyphy. I forget which version ended up on.
Yeah. Well, because like there's the one with like the story where I put like my dad in it, and then I have like my friends out in Prunedale like spinning their tires of their pickup trucks. And then Odin just kind of took that out and just turned it all into performance, just as like a version. I think he asked though, but I think it was like it's just a version that he put on his website that because he didn't like all the stuff
silly
I added.
Stuff.
Yeah,
and then yeah,
I like the silly stuff.
But then you spent 2 years on what is still one of the greatest videos I think's ever made, and you stop motion created this crazy video for Robot Kills.
Well, yeah, because you hit me up. And
that video is, dude. That video. Let's just take a second to think about how great that video is. You really.
That's kind of you.
You took years and you killed it.
Well, it was funny because like we started and you had done the song with Suburban Legends, and MC Bat Commander did. But the version I heard MC Bat Commander was not in it. Okay. It was just Vince from. Suburban Legends.
Yeah, because Christian Bat Commander was, he was real busy. Yo Gabba Gabba was popping off, and I was like, dude, I need you to do this. And he didn't realize it was a ska song. So at first he wasn't super stoked because he wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
So, but he killed it, man. Shout out to that guy.
Oh, his verse is great. But what's interesting though is before that version existed, we were going to shoot a video, and the video was going to be like big like After Effects, but it was going to be like them. Basically, it was going to be Suburban Legends in a record store, and your head, which I shot you on a green screen, if you remember,
definitely.
And your head was going to pop up in all these different. So we're going to take all these different iconic ska albums and put your face on all of them
as they were small, like running over.
Yeah, and so I shot this video at this place called Buffalo Records in Ventura, because my friend worked there, and so she hooked me up with like being able to shoot there all afternoon. And I shot with a few members of Suburban Legends,
and they drove up from Anaheim, which is like 3 hours.
And then I got it home, and I got all the footage home, and I looked at it, shot on the HVX, and I look at it, and my heart just sinks. I'm like, this is just not a good video. It wasn't, the quality of what I shot was not what I wanted the video to be. And I was like, I didn't get enough coverage, and I didn't get enough stuff. So I got really sad and down on the video. And then I don't know when it was, but I was thinking about, it's like, well, how can I salvage this?
Right.
What can I do to make this work? And I was like, well, what if I shot all that footage of Andrew doing the song? Instead of like trying to do After Effects, which I was not good at the time, I'm still not very good at After Effects. I was like, instead of trying to do that, what if I just did some stop animation? And I didn't know, I had never seen videos like this, but I assumed that like, well, if you print out an image sequence and put your face, 24 frames a second down.
Wow, that's why it looks so good.
Then maybe it would look the same. Maybe it would sync up. So I did a small test. And I was like, okay, it does sync up. And so then I think I just called your email and was like, hey, can you just let me just make a video and just trust me that it's going to be dope? I think I just called you as like, just trust me, let me make this video. And then this was already like a year in, because like it up to the point of shooting that video and having that and me finally coming up with the concept was a year in. And so I took the whole next year to do this, which is basically I just turned my closet at the time. I lived in this tiny little apartment which didn't have a living room
in Koreatown.
And there was this makeup closet that supposedly like used to be, it was like a 1920s apartment, and I just turned that into this little studio. And you
went hard for a year.
Yeah, because my whole idea was like, it's like when Billy built a robot in his parents' garage, and like he sits in the line that really got into my head was Billy sits back in the class and laughs with a notepad on his lap as he plans the task. And I was like, what if the whole video is Billy's notebook?
Oh, genius, dude.
And I was like, that would be cool. And then it's like, it's one angle, and then all I have to do is animate it. And I was in my head, I was like, oh, that'll be easier to do it. And then it was not, I learned a lot from it, and I had a lot of fun. And I think what was cool, because I had done to go back to Lint, I had done some animation on Lint, very rudimentary, but I remember liking it. And I'd done some animation in college as well. And I was like, oh, I wonder if animation is something I could get into. And then when I finished this video, it felt like, even though it took so long, I definitely felt like a sense of ownership to it. And like, I like the handmade aesthetic of it.
Yeah, no one makes videos like that.
Because it takes too long.
Well, and then here's what happened. So I was in Cape Cod with John, my drummer, and our producer Joe, and another friend, and we were watching Real World or something, or Jersey Shore, and you texted me, the video's done, and I wrote back, cool, because I was so excited. But on my phone, I accidentally had another O in it, so you got cool, you got COOL, and I just want to go on the record and say, I'm sorry, like I was so excited to watch it. And then I remember we put it on the projection screen for everyone who was staying in this house, and everyone just, their jaws dropped. Like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I called you, and you had put so much time in it. You were disappointed because you felt like that was my verdict on it, right? That I said like, cool.
Yeah.
Right? How did that go down?
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Because you'd put a year in this, and like you'd done it.
You know what? That happens with every artist you send a video to. I've found out when you send them the video, their response is never what you think it's gonna be. It's always.
I told you how phenomenal it was.
No. It's just like when I read that text, like it's kind of it was similar to the text of other artists I worked with who like they're like, oh, cool. Like I was like, oh, like it's cool, it's good. No, it's genius, and it's so genius. That's very nice of you to say.
No, dude, it was so genius that a mutual friend, someone else I worked with on that record, saw it. A man named Alfred Matthew Yankovic, and that he emailed me, and
his middle name is Matthew too.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Jason's middle name.
That's interesting. Who, by the way, I saw Al today. It was kind of tight.
Oh, that's cool.
And so
hung out with him.
Got to have some lunch with my boy. And anyway, that was tight. So he emailed me. He's like, "Hey, how do I get in touch with Tim Thompson? Because I love the Robot Kills video, and
Crazy.
I can't find any information on how."
And that was like 2 years after I made that video.
Yeah, because Al was like looking on the internet for artists he'd worked with who's had cool visuals, and so he hit you up, and you made a video for his Grammy-winning #1 album, Lame Claim to Fame, which was presumably one of the first videos he commissioned to start for that album.
Yeah, because I think he knew it would take a long time, so he commissioned it early, and yeah.
And that video has collectively, 2 million views almost?
I think it has more.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
I think it's like over 3, at least 3.
And he thanked you in the mandatory fun liner notes, and he thanked me too for because I helped on the set with it.
So cool.
That was dope of him.
Yeah,
Thank you,
he's
Al.
so nice. Yeah, and tying back to, because you mentioned Real Big Fish earlier, Real Big Fish's manager
Vince Pileggi,
so awesome, one of the coolest dudes ever.
Yep.
Because I had done a Real Big Fish video, I asked him, I was like, hey, I don't really have much of a budget for this Al video, but can I use your soundstage? Because he has a soundstage down in Riverside.
And so
so Al came down, and Bermuda Schwartz came down, and they filmed their parts with us in Riverside, thanks to Vince with all his equipment. And Vince is just so generous. He was just so generous. And
you have in your room here, you have a painting which is a cow that was the cow that I used to draw in 5th grade when we would talk about Weird Al.
Yeah, and I wanted you to. Yeah, exactly, because I feel like when I first learned about Weird Al was you back in the cow days when you would say moo and you would draw cows all the time.
And that cow was Horace originally.
And I asked you to, and I asked for Weird Al, this thing. I was like, well, I'm going to do this scene, and it's kind of like a reference to Jan Svankmeyer's movie Food. And it's like people animation. It's like Al's gonna slide in the door and and I wanted to have your art in there somewhere because I felt like it fit because he's wearing overalls and he looks kind of frumpy. And I was like, it's got to be your cow. Your cow has to be in there. So.
And the first thing he comes on the set, he's looking around. He's like so impressed you built it, and he goes, "Oh, some original art up there." And you told him the story, and he was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
just to be on the set with you as you directed our childhood hero and like what to do and got him feedback, like that was a magical day. I'm so glad I could be there for that. And you just really knocked it out of the park. And the fact that he deferred to you and was, you know, he bought us all Thai food and he was just like,
yeah, no, he was really great. And he kind of like, you know, he was very nice. And, you know, because, you know, when you work on a crew, like sometimes the crew say really embarrassing things. And so, but he was just very friendly. And
we're obviously all fans. Yeah. Everyone, you know, want to work on a Weird Al video? Okay.
Yeah, it was like my friend Andrew Koch worked on that.
Yeah,
he got on America's Got Talent. He's part of like there's a big choir.
Oh, really?
That was on America's Got Talent. So he came out and helped, and my friend Kiff came out and helped.
Yeah.
And it was really nice. And then
it was the day went really smoothly.
The day was really great. But then I also got a film at my apartment. I got a film with
Jim and Steve.
Yeah, Jim and Steve and Dr. Demento.
And Dr. Demento comes to the apartment. We're pulling up and with his hat and his outfit.
Do people don't know we lived together? This is when you lived with me.
I lived with Tim for a bunch of years. I lived with after the first Warped Tour until like 2014.
Yeah.
Off and on, I was your roommate.
Ouch.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
I was your roommate in West LA.
So cool.
Which is some of the happiest memories of my life, man. And like we were just making art all the time, but also driving each other crazy. And I would do this thing like juice garlic and juice random food and just drink it and then see how much pain I could be in.
I remember the first thing you tried to juice was bananas. And there's like no juice comes out of bananas. And you just like gummed up your nice new juicer. This banana gunk, and then you just started putting tons of garlic in it, and the next day you came out and you're like, Tim, I shouldn't have juiced all that garlic. I had a horrible night. My stomach was hurt so bad.
we were just I was living off the money I'd made on Warped Tour, and you were doing all these projects in the Weird Al video. It was kind of like our 11-year-old memories. I don't know. It was fun, man. I really look at those moments fondly. When I can come down and visit you, it's really fresh.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's good to have you back in the apartment.
Yeah, and then thanks, dog. And then you did a Real Big Fish video after that. No,
that was before. That was actually how I got it. It's funny because like Vince is very like, I don't know if the word is intuitive, but like he kind of like he's insightful and like
he's been their only manager. Which is kind of rare.
He's great. He's in the Sell Out video. He's like one of the best parts of it. He's like the smarmy like business dude. I love it. And he's such a sweetheart. And
you know, Vince almost managed me. I had meetings with him after I left Network, and
he's great. He's a great guy.
I almost signed a deal with him, but we both decided not to.
It's okay.
But we're homies still.
Yeah, he's great. He's really. We had done that Real Big Fish video because I had worked with a band that I think went out to an Orange.
Sure.
Joe Dexter.
Shout out to Orange, who I toured with.
Joe's so cool.
With Zebrahead.
Yeah, Joe and I almost did a video not too long ago, but it just timing and things just didn't work out, unfortunately. But I've done two videos for Orange.
So you met Real Big Fish through Orange? Through
Orange, yeah, because I did 2 videos for Orange.
And then this Real Big Fish videos Don't Stop Skanking.
Yeah, and they toured with Real Big Fish, and they're like, we need a new video. Because up to that point, Vince had been directing all their videos, which are fine. They're really funny.
Did Vince direct Sell Out?
I don't think he directed Sell Out, but he directed like a bunch of their more recent videos. I actually don't know if he did or not. But he directed a bunch of their other videos. But Vince was like, "Yeah, we want some new blood. We want to like switch it up, just because I've been directing all the videos up to this point, and like I want to just do something different." So we just met up, we talked, and once I told him the concept, he liked it, and then he just handed me a check, and then we just filmed out in this place called Cowtown in Riverside.
Yeah, that video.
But awesome. They heard about. It's funny because like I get these music video gigs just word of mouth from other people who've made music videos with me, which is kind of fun. It's just like, you know, like Orange heard about me from you, and then Real Big Fish heard about me from Orange.
Well, what this shows is you do great work, you show up, your reputation precedes you. You know, I mean, and Weird Al, yeah. If you hadn't busted your butt for a year doing Robot Kills, you know what I mean? Like, because Orange, we're all connected, right? And like, you worked hard, Tim, and like, you still do, and you make amazing work, and you're brilliant, and like, you have your best work ahead of you. I know that.
Thank you very much. I think I kind of feel like you do too. I feel like there's a lot of really creative ideas that you have that we've talked about, and like, I'm really excited to see where your trajectory is going as well. You know, it's just fun to like.
Thank you.
I don't know. It's like, it's exciting to like, it's, you know, I don't think I imagine this kind of where I would be in my life when I was young. You know, I probably envisioned a lot bigger level of success for myself. But I don't know. I just think it's cool that we're both doing creative things, and we're both and we both never gave up on that. We both never settled for like the regular life. We sort of lived the artsy, you know, creative life instead.
The month by month artsy
month to month.
You know, but Tim, I mean,
paycheck to paycheck.
I think this we can start wrapping up this podcast, but like it's because we had each other. You're like my brother I never had, and you know what I mean? And you, and then also DJ, like my two best friends, and who are both artistic soulmates that I wouldn't have done MC Lars if it hadn't been for meeting you. And we wouldn't have had those great videos. And like, you know, I wouldn't be, Amphoteric taught me about booking shows and arranging, and you know what I mean? And like the happiness, the sadness, and it all goes back to Jason. Jason is I feel like through our creativity and through our joy and through what we do, we kind of keep his memory alive. Mm-hmm. You know, there was like this thing that was missing, and art was the frantic, special thing that kept us going and kept us together. And it's why, you know, like,
I think it's why I think it's the reason why we never completely lost touch, because I think we'd always want to check in at a certain point because we had that connection to him.
Sure.
So I think that's probably what kept us keep coming back.
Imagine if he lived, we maybe would have grown apart.
I do think about that sometimes, like if, you know, like the whole sliding doors kind of concept of like where, you know, where would life take you?
I don't know if you've seen it, but you know, Violent J's brother, Jump Steady, writes and directs like short films.
That's so awesome.
And there's this psychopathic theater DVD that came out. It's called like Tales from the Dark Carnival. And there's a story he has where each one is based on different songs. Like there's a Boogie Woogie Woo one about these kids getting a zombie one. There's a Mad Professor one about this guy who creates this beast, you know. But there's one they do on ICP's Joke Your Mind, which is like an old song. And it's a story of this guy who lives two lives. One where he ends up marrying this woman, and one where his friend lives forever. And and at the end of the movie, like I'll just spoil it, but if you don't want it spoiled, fast forward through this part. He is talking to he wakes up from a dream. He's talking to his wife about his friend, and his wife says, you know, your friend died in a car accident. He's not real. But through the whole video, you think he's with his friend talking about this girl who he got married to, and it's like two very different realities, and you realize that like he couldn't have both. You know what I mean? It's like it's very philosophical. You know, Jump Steady's a great writer, and think about that. Like, of course, I would love to have Jason. Would definitely prefer to have Jason than any of the MC Lars stuff. Yeah, I would definitely love to have him back.
But it's interesting to think about, like, well, I mean, because part of me is like, well, would you have pursued art as hard? That's an interesting question. Like, would you have just said, well, maybe I'll just do something sensible? Because he was definitely, because, you know, I mean, like his influence. He was definitely like, his dad was like, do sensible things, you know, go to college, you know, get an education, sensible job. He probably would have had a sensible job.
Yeah, and
he would have been great at it because he was super smart.
But he would have been like, he would have had like a great blog or really cool YouTube channel.
Yeah, it would have been amazing if he had been a writer or something. You know, like he probably could have been. He had such a tumultuous life.
You know what's something that brings everything back to like. Interesting closing point is he had a copy of this book called Communion, which was about it's by the guy who wrote Fire in the Sky.
I have it here. I have that copy.
You have a copy of it, and it's full of Jason's notes. And
interesting.
Jason was the otherworldly, out of this world kind of guy. And I was interesting talking to Mike Russo,
he loved those books about true life aliens. He loved the X-Files. Yeah, I have another one called Aliens Among Us.
That was Jason's?
Yeah, it's also Jason's.
Mike is like really into that alien stuff too, and like he was mentioning those books, and it was like interesting that one of the first videos you did was Lars Attacks.
I did Lars Attacks. Yeah.
Which is, by the way, an unsung great of the catalog.
I think we poured a lot into that video, and I
licked a fish. I put in painful contacts.
Oh, dude, you were
The teeth hurt my gums, man, and. I think that video was just like a big departure from what.
But exactly. That's what I want.
And we put it was on Blank TV premiered it as well as my channel, which split the views. I don't know. I don't regret making that video. It's
you know
great.
what? I think at some point when people are looking retrospectively at your career, I think that video is going to come back. I'm like, people go, damn, this video is really good.
And you got like some of our female friends were volunteered to be like abducted by the alien.
Yeah, no, I think it has a lot going for it, especially for such a small video.
You killed that one,
we did so much, and we just like poured our energy into it, and people let us use their garages.
My uncle's dentist office. You did surgery on me. The autopsy.
It's so great. I think it looks great. It for just throwing stuff together.
The Russian language, it's found footage.
Yeah, right. And a lot of people, we definitely messed up the translation because a lot of people have commented on the video like, what does that mean?
It means Russian. Music videos will always be necessary.
Yeah, I think there's always a desire to sort of see sort of a visual interpretation of a song. You know what I mean? And music videos can cover the gamut. They can be performance, or they can be just lyric videos, or they can be really bizarre, sort of surreal, Salvador Dali level,
dimension.
Super creative, super bizarre, I think, yeah. And
speaking of Salvador Dali, well, I know we're wrapping up, but didn't he live at Santa Catalina where he went to school?
Yeah, that's the rumor. That's the rumor, is that I think it was before it was Santa Catalina.
Did some inappropriate stuff there?
I don't know if he didn't need anything inappropriate. He just had a lot of parties. Is that inappropriate?
No, that's just...
I think that's just
Hello, Dolly!
Him just having fun. And he would have a lot of crazy parties.
What's good?
And he had a studio there, and he would paint there, apparently. And that was in Monterey. That's the rumor. That's what they say. There's one house and they say it, I want to say it predates the hacienda there. It predates the sort of the school and the architecture that grew up around there.
Maybe there's somebody in the air from Dali, though, who inspired us, right? I mean, that's kind of interesting. That he would have worked near where we went to school.
Yeah, I mean, Dali has always been a favorite of mine. I like his stuff, and I think growing up in a very religious family, you definitely see his religious iconography is so awesome. And I think, I wouldn't doubt that it had some sort of an effect, because he's just so out there, and I love it. And he I don't know if you know this, but he also made a film.
Yeah. He did.
Yeah, Un Chien Andalou, which I want to say was with Buñuel.
We didn't even touch on this. You have such a knowledge of film history and so many great movies.
If I got that wrong, then it won't be.
You're on Letterboxd too, right? What's your Letterboxd?
I think it's just movies, Tim. Yeah.
Yeah. Follow him on Letterboxd. Let's end with Escape from Robot Island. This song was kind of also how it felt in college sometimes, where everyone was very much focused on law school and med school, and now they're all millionaires and they're laughing at me. But that Robot Island felt like Stanford a little bit, everyone, you know what I mean? It was escape from this island of these robots. I don't know. That was kind of my vibe on that a little bit. I don't know. I just saying this song was about wanting to get off campus and be done with college.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember that weekend very fondly. And we went to a party, and we run into... Who did we do? Did we run into Fred Savage, or did we run into the kid from Boy Meets World? Who did we run into?
The kid from Boy Meets World, which is Ben Savage.
Ben Savage,
Fred Savage's brother.
Yeah,
because he was in a dorm. He was in a house with my
friend. That
friend
was that
Chuck.
Same weekend when we did Robot Kills, I think.
And I was trying to give him a Lars Horse sticker, and he wasn't trying to take it.
Yeah,
but because he had nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. You spent a lot of time at Stanford.
Yeah, it was fun to always come and visit you and DJ and your roommates and your friends.
Yeah, they were at some point they thought you were a student there.
I love that you would go down to the kitchen and just pile your plate high with mushrooms.
Legal mushrooms.
Legal. It was a vegetarian house.
Column Bay, right.
You lived in a vegetarian thing, and you would just I love mushrooms, and you could just go down and get a whole plate of them.
Yeah, that was a cool thing. It was like a buffet of vegetarian food. That was actually pretty dope. And we'd have to cook. And I remember the night I cooked. Oh God, this podcast is so long. But this will be the last one. The night
chop it up.
I cooked was after everyone brought out the meal, you'd bring it around the porch and everyone would clap, right? So it was my night and I didn't plan, so I just made a big thing of spaghetti and then just threw some salad together and microwaved these tortilla shells and was putting the spaghetti in the tortilla shells with ketchup. I call it a spataco. And I was making those for everyone, and everyone gave them to everyone, and they were all sitting on the porch, looking really sad at their vegetarian food, and no one clapped. So I just started clapping for the meal, and I got everyone to. No, it was I I left Column Bay because people weren't feeling me there, and I wasn't feeling it. So I went to England and started doing the MC Lars stuff. So I applied for the overseas program, so I didn't have to stay in the dorm.
Heck yes.
That's a tangential story. Tim, I love you, dog.
I love you too, buddy.
Hope we can make videos forever. You're working on video for the Megaran record.
Yeah, I can't wait.
We'll talk more about that.
It's dope.
Maybe
it's a dope song.
Maybe we'll drop this like when that video drops that week. That'll be cool.
That'd be hot.
This is Escape from Robot Island from Radio Pet Fencing. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Peace. August 4th, 1990, kicking it across the bay when we went straight to that island on that moment to stay, to explore, not ignore, like Christopher C., Emmett P. and Lars H., pioneers adrift at sea. And so we went ashore, knowing not what was in store, till there came a crazy noise that we could not ignore. 14 robo-primates, they came straight for us, nasty and ugly like a zip brimming with pus. So we hopped into our boat, hoping it would float, till we found a robo-monkey, had chewed it like a goat, and a big hole remained at the bottom of a craft. As it began to sink, the robo-creatures laughed. Then out of the woods came more robots by the dozens, daddies, mommies, aunts and uncles, grandpas, grandmas, and cousins. Whole robo-families, thirsting for blood, vampiric evil machines, caked in oil, grease, and mud. Escape from Robot Island. We'll take them to the desert, trip the circuits and fry them. Can't stay in Robot Island. These robots are maniacal, let's beat them up and hide them. Get out of Robot Island. Don't wanna be your robo-lunch, your robo-can food blend. Delete Robot Island.
You evil R2-D2s, now it's time to meet your end. What's that you say, boy? Haven't you heard? Can me stupid ass wipe off, flip the bird. I wanna smack you right now in the face, but they're locked on me. Stuck in this place today has been a scary day. These robots, they don't wanna play. Their bodies are metallic gray. Their wires look like plastic. These robots chased us through the night. Everybody knows that I put up a fight to the different kinds. They blow my mind, giant eyeball watching me read my mind. Their fur ones, the blades coming out of the fur. Robots are in chariots like her. Time that will toss you in a chasm. Balls will draw you like in phantasm. Tall ones, short ones, round ones, long ones, little ones, green ones, right ones, wrong ones. Batters not include these things attack. Model ZX goes for your sack. Big metal teeth ain't too friendly. Mechanical death, that's not for me. All the different doomsday machines, we have to stop them with livid. I mean, they have their cold metallic hearts. Soulless just like Kincaid's art. We need to learn the play apart. Getting out alive is where we'll start. Save ourselves, see that is the mission. Like I'm running from the firm and then Uncle by Grisham. Tommy Knockers by Mr. King. On the run and this ain't no dream.
Escape from Robot Island. We'll take them to the desert, trip the circuits and fry them. Can't stay in Robot Island.
These robots are maniacal, let's beat them up and hide them. Get out
of Robot Island. Don't wanna be your robo-lunch, your robo-can food blend.
Delete
Robot Island.
You evil R2-D2s, now it's time to meet your end. Hiding out on the treehouse floor, evil bots knocking at the door.
We climbed up here to get away and we've been stuck all night and day.
We built a gun, quadruple barrel, quiver filled with acid arrows.
There was a chainsaw that we found like ash, we wielded it around.
We used it like a robot shank, little did we know the chain would break.
We had a copper melting pot filled with oil very hot.
It burned right through the wooden planks. They climbed up and they said thanks.
They want violence on harmless pranks.
Run, Lars, run just like Tom Hanks.
Foolish humans, time to die. We'll gobble you up like ham and rye.
We've done everything that we can do. It was up to me, now it's up to you.
The arrows, we still have those. Let's fire them, see how it goes.
Foolish humans, that won't work. We'll get you both. Prepare to hurt. Your blood will drip, your blood will spurt, and you'll be 6 feet under dirt.
So this is what it feels like being the prey. The early bot gets the human, or so they say.
Wait, it's time to die. I don't want to go yet. I never went to Russia or owned a private jet. I never kissed a lion or went bowling nude. I've never gone hang gliding or had hamster food.
But pull yourself together, man, you're getting me annoyed. Let's not go out in shame, let's go out shooting droids. You forgot about my Remington, take 2 my Smith & Wesson. My aim is next to perfect, let's teach these things a lesson. Stop.
No.
Shoot! Yes, I'm about to do it.
go! Ah, nice, but we're not halfway through it. There's 800 more, and you've only got 2 bullets.
If anyone can make it, M&P and Lars can do it.
You're right, M&P. Let's overcome our fears. Machines will run humanity like twisted engineers.
Escape from Robot Island.
We'll take them to the desert, trip the circuits and fry them.
Can't stay in Robot Island. These robots are maniacal. Let's beat them up and hide them. Get out of Robot Island.
Don't wanna be your robo lunch, your robo can food blend.
Delete Robot Island. You evil R2-D2s, now it's time to meet your end.
Escape from Robot Island. Escape from Robot Island. Escape from Robot Island. Escape from Robot Island.
Thank you, Timothy. Escape from Rhode Island. That was on Radio Pet Fencing. And if you support the Patreon, hey, you get to download it. That album isn't available anywhere. So that was that. Thanks for coming to see us on the tour. Like I said, nerdcoretour.com for dates. The Mount Nerdcore Tour with Mega Ran, MC Frontalot, and Schaefer the Dark Lord. And guess what? Next week, yeah, you bet. A lot of people have been asking about this guest. I sat down with Whitey Cracker, and we went over all of our history, his involvement in Nerdcore, our touring, our projects. We speculate on a Digital Gangster Part 2. We talk about his new life as a baller in Beverly Hills, as a father, as a musician, as a DJ, as a advocate of wearing flip-flops on stage. We love Whitey Cracker. So that's next week. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. I'm trying to direct the reviews to iTunes. So even if you bump this on another platform, if you go to podcast.mclars.com, that takes you right to the iTunes page. And tell a friend. And yeah, even if you hate the podcast, tell me. I mean, I prefer if you don't hate it, but any review is great. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank my friends for putting up with my corny jokes in the tour van. And I want to thank y'all for supporting these projects. Dewey Decibel System drops first Friday of June. We're dropping a new single every month. We just did a video for 1984. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And basically, it's very joyful. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.